Hey everyone, Chris here. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different, something that I'm hoping to make a part of my channel going forward. It's kind of an answer to the channels that do the 5 cards going to the moon right now, buy them before you miss out kind of thing. And what I'm doing is I'm just going to show you 5 cards that I have in my collection, either that I've had in my collection or something that I may have gotten picked up recently. Has absolutely nothing to do with value, but it's just cards that I think are cool, why I think they're cool. And as I've said many times before, I believe cards tell stories. Not only do they tell the stories about the people on the cards, but I think it also tells a story about the people that collect them. And that's one of the things I hope that people will get out of my videos is they get to see who I am as a collector, what I like to collect, the players, the teams, the different themes, things like that. They're tied to history, and I hope that's what comes out in my videos. So for those that enjoy the set spotlight that we've been doing on 1956 Topps football, that is coming back. I'll probably start picking that up again in the next video. But I wanted to do something a little bit different, and also for 2022, I want to try and show a little bit more baseball cards that I really haven't done too much in the first 4 or 5 months that I've been doing this. So with that, let's get to the fun stuff. Let's get to the cards and to the stories. One thing I noticed when I pulled my first card is I noticed it was a catcher. And I actually love collecting catchers because I think they're so underrated in the importance that they have for a baseball team. And I just love collecting them. I think some of the best looking cards have catchers on them. If you look at cards from the 70s, to me, some of the best looking cards are cards of Thurman Munson and Johnny Bench. And then even in the 80s, 2 of my favorite cards are a 1980 Topps Gary Carter and a 1982 Topps In Action Carlton Fisk. So the first card I picked was a catcher. And I started thinking, okay, well, let me pick another card. And I wanted to pick a catcher. So I picked another catcher, and then I started noticing another theme. And that theme was I was picking pre-war catchers. So I decided to, for this first video, for 5 cool cards to collect, I decided to go all with pre-war catchers. And all of these guys played in the 20s and the 30s. Now this first card is from 1921. It's an E121 American Caramel card of Otto Miller. He played for Brooklyn, and at the time they were called the Robins. This was before they did the full name change to the Dodgers. And what I like about this card is, now you may know if you've watched this channel for a little bit, you know I really love color in cards. I love color and I love logos and things like that. But I also like the classic look of black and white photos on cards. So I really love that about this card, and I really love the B logo for Brooklyn on his jersey. I think it's a great picture in my opinion. He's got his catcher's mitt there in his left hand. Otto Miller did not have a great career. He was kind of a light hitting catcher and probably average defensively. But he does have a tie to World Series history and was actually part of one of the most difficult plays as far as rarity in baseball. And this particular play only happened once in World Series history and has only happened 15 times in the history of all baseball. And what that was, in 1920, Bill Wamgun did the first unassisted triple play, or not the first, but the first in World Series history. And he's the only one to ever do that in World Series history. And Otto Miller was actually the third out in that. So I think that's kind of neat. I do want to get a Wamgun's card to add to kind of pair up with this card sometime in the near future, hopefully. And the second card, I've shown this before. For those that didn't see it, I did a video about Gabby Hartnett maybe a couple of months ago. So maybe go and check that out. I showed some of my other Gabby Hartnett cards. But I do want to quickly kind of go over the three things just the important things in baseball history that he was a part of as well. So he had three significant moments in baseball history. One was he was the catcher behind home plate when Babe Ruth called his shot in Game 3 of the 1932 World Series. Number two, he was the National League catcher in the 1934 All-Star Game when Carl Hubbell struck out Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Jimmy Fox, Al Simmons, and Joe Cronin all in succession. And then finally in 1938, he hit what was referred to as the homer in the Gloamin' late in the season against the Pittsburgh Pirates. It was a walk-off home run that gave the Cubs the lead in the National League standings over the Pittsburgh Pirates late in September as the Cubs overtook the Pirates and ended up playing in the World Series that year. And the third card we have is a 1933 Gowdy Muddy Rule. I just think this is a great pose with his catcher's mitt there and chest protector, and just a cool card. Now, in August 16th of 1920, in a game between the Yankees and Indians at the Polo Grounds, Yankees pitcher Carl Mays was facing Indian shortstop Ray Chapman. Mays pitched the ball, and there was a loud crack as the ball kind of dribbled back to Mays at the mound, where Mays fielded the ball and threw to first for what he thought was an out. But as Ray Chapman kind of slumped to the ground with his eyes closed and his mouth opened, it was apparent that something more serious had happened. Chapman had been hit in the head by the pitch, and as he slumped, Muddy Rule, who was the catcher for that game, or for the Yankees, he kind of grabbed Chapman and gently laid him on the ground as he lost consciousness. Now, Chapman would actually die in the hospital the next day from his injury. And he is the only Major League Baseball player to die from an injury that occurred on the baseball field. Now, in a little more celebratory moment in Muddy Rule's career, he was part of a great moment in World Series history. He was a great catcher, first of all, and was considered one of the best catchers during the 1920s. He played for the Washington Senators in 1924, and that was the year that they met the New York Giants in the World Series. Rule had gone hitless in every single game entering Game 7. And in a classic save the best for last, Rule got a hit in the 8th inning to kind of get off the snide a little bit. And then in the 12th, with the score tied 3-3 and 1 out, Rule popped a foul ball behind home plate. And in what should have been an easy second out, Giants catcher Hank Gowdy tossed his mask and got ready to make the play on the ball. But unfortunately, he stepped on his mask and stumbled, and then the ball just dropped harmlessly to the ground. So with a second chance here, on the very next pitch, Muddy hit a double. And this brought up pitcher Walter Johnson, who got a single, but Muddy was unable to advance to third base. The next batter up was Earl McNeely, and he hit a sharp ball to third baseman Freddie Lindstrom. And as Lindstrom tried to field the ball, it hit a pebble on the field and took a bad hop over his head. Rule raced around the bases. Now, he was not known for his speed, but Rule raced around the bases and scored from second base, scoring the winning run, giving the Washington Senators their one and only World Series victory and Walter Johnson's one and only World Series victory. So I think that's a pretty cool card there, and I really think it's cool to have in your collection. The next one is another catcher, 1935 Ernie Lombardi, who played for the Cincinnati Reds. I think this is a player who really doesn't get enough respect for who he was and what he accomplished. He was a great defensive catcher, had a good arm, just great defensively. I mean, they say he was just very, very graceful around the plate, and did really well kind of working with the pitchers and calling games and things like that. And he was also a really good hitter as well. Now, One of the good things is he caught both of Johnny Vandermeer's back-to-back no-hitters. And as much as pitchers kind of seem to get all the credit for these no-hitters, I do believe that the catcher plays a huge role as well. Not only the catcher, but also the guys in the field that are the defensive players as well. Now, for Lombardi, unfortunately, he may be best remembered for a play in the 1939 World Series when the Reds were down 3-0 against the Yankees, and the game was tied in extra innings with the Yankees up in the top half of the inning. And they had Frank Crosetti and Charlie Keller on base, and Joe DiMaggio was up. DiMaggio laced a base hit to right field. Crosetti came in and scored, and then Charlie Keller came in behind him and kind of ran Lombardi over. And Lombardi dropped the ball. Keller scored on the play as well, and DiMaggio, noticing that Lombardi was still kind of dazed a little bit, came in and scored as well. The Yankees went on to finish that game off, and they ended up sweeping the Reds in that World Series. In a more tragic part of his life, Lombardi tried to commit suicide in 1953 by cutting his own throat with a knife. Luckily, his wife found him. They got him to a hospital, and he was able to recover. And I think this kind of probably hurt his Hall of Fame chances while he was alive. And he was actually kind of bitter about it. And unfortunately, year after year, he seemed to get overlooked. And it was something that really made him bitter. And he had kind of said that he would not attend the ceremony even if he were elected. And finally, in 1986, 9 years after he had died, he was finally enshrined in the Baseball Hall of Fame. One thing I will say, too, more and more I love this set. I just love the Diamond Stars set. I have a few of these cards, and I really want to add a few more. I'd really like to get a Bill Dickey. I don't have a Playing Days Bill Dickey card. I would like to get one from this set as well as the 1933 Gowdy set. Now, the last card I'm going to show, see if I can fit this in here somehow. This is a 1934 gold medal flower card of Mickey Cochran. It was actually, it probably should say Gold Medal Foods, which was the parent company of Wheaties. These cards were distributed as a send-in. You would cut off the offer from the box, and they would send you, I think it was a total of 12 cards. Now, the cards for the players, that you had two teams that were represented here. And both of the teams that were represented were the two teams that played in the 1934 World Series. You had the Detroit Tigers, who were the losing team, and you had the Gas House Gang, the St. Louis Cardinals, who were the winning team that year. I love this card. I love this set. Unfortunately, this is the only card I have from this set. I really would love to add some of those Cardinals players, maybe 2 or 3. Got some really great players that you could choose from. You have Dazzy and Paul Dean, Joe Medwick, Frankie Frisch, who else? Pepper Martin. I think I'm probably leaving some guys out, but there are several really good players that you can choose from, and I hope to add maybe a couple more at some point. Now, one thing that I really like about this card is it's from 1934, and now even though it was the year that the Tigers lost, Mickey Cochran was the MVP of the American League this year. And if you look at this card just from an eye appeal thing, it's just a crisp photo. I mean, look at the detail. The detail is amazing in this photo, all the way from his socks and his cleats and the dirt underneath him and the jersey and the hat. And you have the background, the crowd is kind of blurred out, which I think I would prefer for it not to be, but I think that's probably what kind of makes the other part of this photo really stand out. Now, again, Cochran was one of the best catchers during his playing career, and during a 7-year span from 1929 to 1935, He played on 5 teams that won the American League pennant in a time that's kind of best remembered by the dominance of Babe Ruth and the New York Yankees. 3 of those years were with the Philadelphia Athletics, and 2 were with the Detroit Tigers. Now, 3 of those 5 teams that he was on won the World Series. He won 2 with the Athletics, and then 1 after losing the 1934 World Series. The Tigers came back the following year and won the World Series in 1935. He was also player-manager for those Tigers teams, which is pretty remarkable when you think about it. Now, in a game in 1938, Mickey was hit in the head by a pitch, and it almost killed him. It unfortunately ended his playing career, and he never played again, which is kind of a tragic ending to that. But again, I love this card. I think Mickey Cochran has a great story. All these guys have great stories. I know this video was a little longer than the ones I usually do, but I thought there was a lot of information, and a lot of good information that really kind of brings these cards to life. So I hope that you enjoyed that, and we will talk to you next time. We'll see you later.